Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. And here we go. We're in the midst of the analysis on our starting pitchers. Yeah, starting pitchers. And Tuesday. It's Thursday, Arnie. Come on, get your calendar right. But Tuesday, we went through tiers 1 and 2 and a brief recap. All right, so Tier 1, I only had 2 pitchers. That was quick. No, actually, it took a little while because I think they're the best 2 pitchers in the game. And interestingly enough, one is in the National League. That's Jacob deGrom and of the New York Mets. The other is in New York, but he's in the American League, and that's Garrett Cole, of the New York Yankees. So after we finished Tier 1, we went on to Tier 2, where there were 10. And not necessarily in order, but we'll start with Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Walker Buehler, Jack Flaherty, Shane Bieber, Mike Clevinger, Blake Snell, Steven Strasburg, Chris Sale, and Clayton Kershaw. And that's just a brief recap of my Tier 1 and Tier 2. And let's just stop for a moment. I'm not really ranking these necessarily in order as much as I am ranking them by tiers. And what do I mean by tiers? Okay, so let's put these starting pitchers into groups. And that way when you're drafting in your fantasy baseball leagues, and some of you are experts in fantasy drafts, some of you listening may have never drafted a fantasy baseball team in your life. But I think it's better to just not go by what, let's say, Yahoo says or ESPN says. Make your own list. And if you have them in groups, my top group, my second top group, I'm calling those groups tiers. Then when it comes to drafting and you drafting pitchers, if the guy right in front of you picks the pitcher you had keyed up, ready to go, then you've got something to back you up, fall back on, without having to panic, without having to go looking for pitchers in a queue that, well, basically aren't there. So that's what this show is about today. I'm glad you joined me. Welcome everybody in the chat room. Welcome everybody listening on podcast. Lenny, great job again leading off the day. You know, it's always great when Lenny leads off and I'm on deck. I used to bat second on a lot of teams. And so batting second on this team, wow, it's a great spot to be in, I'm telling you. So as we go now into Tier 3, I'm going to break down these pitchers. We're going to talk about stats. We're not going to go so fast, okay? I want you to be able to listen, digest, give me some feedback. You know, a lot of you on Facebook, you are keyed in. Give me some feedback there. You can go to my Facebook page, Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. You can put in questions there. I get questions through Messenger on Facebook during what I'll call off hours, asking me, would you make this trade? Would you make that trade? It's my opinion. I'll give it to you. But it's great to hear from you. Great to see folks in the chat room. So let's dig right in. My Tier 3. And now I've got several in Tier 3. And I'm going to start with 36-year-old Tampa Bay right-hander Charlie Morton. The man whom after steakhouses were named. Morton Steakhouses. You knew that, right? Of course, I'm kidding. Last year, Charlie threw 194 innings. He won 16 games. He had 2 shutouts. And so I'm in a league where shutouts are like, I don't know, pots of gold at the end of the rainbow maybe. And to have a pitcher who can actually, in this game, in this day, in this era, throw not 1 but 2 shutouts in the same season. Yeah, I mean, if you don't applaud for that, there's not much left to applaud for, right? Charlie Morton. Now, he does enter his age 36 season. But last year, in addition to those great numbers, he had an ERA just north of 3. He had a whip ever so slightly north of 1. I want to look at his away home left-right splits. at home, at the Trop, where he's going to pitch half of his games, he had a 2.58 ERA. Struck out 143 and only walked 27. Now that's 143 strikeouts and 104 innings pitched. That's like 13.8 K per 9 rate at home at the Trop. I don't know about you, but that kind of number blows me away. And when you look at his left-right split, look what he does to right-handed batters. In 97 innings, he only surrendered 71 hits, struck out 104, and only walked 28. Against right-handed batters last year, only 4 home runs surrendered, and that was a 1.57 ERA. For Charlie Morton, who comes in my third tier. Now, just so you know, what distinguished Charlie Morton, what made Charlie Morton be tier 3 and Clayton Kershaw be tier 2, excuse me. So let me tell you why, all right? Because it's a fine line between tier 2s and tier 3s. I think a lot of it between Kershaw and Morton in my book has to do with pedigree, has to do with runs scored on the team you play on. Face it, the Dodgers, with the lineup they've got this year, they're going to score a lot more runs, in my opinion, than Tampa Bay. And a pitcher like Kershaw is going to be a better commodity. And I don't care what league you play in. I don't know of any league, well, maybe I guess there are some, but I'm not in any league where wins aren't a category. I know you don't chase wins, but I think if you can pick between a player who may get a lot and a player who may not, that's a category. Morton's going to get wins. I'm just saying what distinguishes him from being Kershaw. I just don't think he's quite up to Kershaw. Maybe it's reputation. Maybe it's name. Maybe it's the fact that Charlie Morton's 36 years old. Just saying. Everybody's got an opinion, right? That's what chat rooms are for. That's what podcasts are for. You know, I'm doing the show, so you got to listen to me. If I don't want to listen to you, I just don't look at the chat room. You know, whatever. I'm just saying, though, this is my tier 3. Okay, another pitcher in my tier 3, Patrick Corbin, the Washington National left-hander. Okay, let's look at Corbin's home, away, left, right, overall record kind of splits from last year, because that's a lot to go on. He's now in his second year in Washington. He's 30 years old, of course, a left-hander. Last year at home, where he much preferred pitching, 105 innings, 125 strikeouts. That's 10.7 K per 9 at home. Oh, by the way, he had a 10.5 K per 9 against players on the road. So not much difference in K per 9 at home, K per 9 on the road. Where the big difference comes in on splits home and away for Patrick Corbin is ERA. Whereas away ERA was 4.3, his away ERA was 4.17, and his ERA at home was 2.4. More than a run and a half difference in ERA for Patrick Corbin when pitching away from our nation's capital. He threw 105 innings at home, 97 away. He struck out 125 at home, 113 away. He walked 10 more batters on the road. So, not a great split in other categories, but a huge differential in the ERA category for Patrick Corbin away from Washington, D.C. He threw 202 innings last year. He won 14 games. He had a 3.252 ERA. Good numbers. Category, or rather tier, number 3. Now, my next pitcher, I certainly don't think I'm basing it on last year's stats. It's 25-year-old New York Yankee right-hander Luis Severino. That's right, Luis Severino coming off a 2019 season where he was, well, shall we say, on the shelf for a while. Came back, pitched towards the end of the year, pitched in the playoffs, pitched very well, I might add. I don't want to look at 2019 numbers. I'm going to look back at 2018 numbers. In 2018, at Yankee Stadium, he had a 2.74 ERA, 92 innings pitched, 110 strikeouts. Interestingly enough, he struck out 220 that year, 110 on the road, 110 at home. Wow. I heard a stat one time. I guess you guys know, many of you probably know this. Stan Musial, who finished his major league career with 3,630 hits. At one time before Pete Rose, tops in the National League. But of the 3,630 total hits Stan Musial had, this is an aside, isn't it? Because, Stan Musial's not playing. In fact, he's passed away. Rest in peace, Stan, the man, Arthur Fonzarelli's favorite player. I have autographs of Stan, the man. I'll probably take a picture and make it be my cover photo for one of my shows. But Musial, of his 3,630 hits, 1,815 in St. Louis, 1,815 on the road. Now, if that isn't consistent, tell me what is. The man who started his career before World War II and ended his career 2 months before President Kennedy was assassinated. Oh well, I drifted away. I'm back on Severino with 110 strikeouts both home and away in 2018. And he's back now at his age 25 season on a team that's going to score runs, and more runs. He's got a great bullpen. He doesn't have to be taxed, and he's no longer the number one starter because Garrett Cole has taken on that mantle. So Severino comes into New York healthy, ready for a full season, looked pretty good in the playoffs. He's in my third tier. Now the next pitcher, another 36-year-old, Charlie Morton, 36, and so is Houston Astro, not so great, Zach Greinke. Now Greinke will move up the ladder in Houston, no longer a number 3, he's now a number 2 because Cole has migrated north during the winter, as a lot of animals do, people and baseball players. Greinke, 36, last year traded over to Houston. Overall, he won 18 games. He threw 208 innings. He had an ERA just under 3 at 2.93. He had a whip just under 1 at .982. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what whip means, walks and hits per innings pitched. So under 1 is really good. Stat-wise, home and away. And this is not necessarily indicative, I don't think, because he didn't play a full season in Houston. But he had an ERA 1 run lower on the season on average at home than he did on the road. So he's much more comfortable at home. But here's a great stat. And how many of you knew this one? Because until I did my homework, getting ready to talk to you great fans and people, and you guys really are great people and great fans. And without you, Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network just does not exist. But how many of you knew that walks, number one, he only had 6 walks at home last year, 15 on the road.